Hello and welcome, I'm Kate Scrivener, and today I'm going to be announcing the POC-A-Thon, and I'm really excited to be doing this once again. It was one of my favorite things of last year. I got to help create it because I just saw a lack of communal conversation about representation and diversity in our community, because I know that there's a lot of people who talk about it on their channels, but there wasn't a lot of things that were across our community, which I think is incredibly important. And since then there's actually been a few readathons that have popped up that are more specified, so I'm really happy that that has happened as well. I'm not saying that we caused it, but I'm just very happy that over the last year I think that our community has grown a lot. Anyways, I'm going to jump right into it. It is from August 19th until the 31st because we don't believe in having full 2-week readathons. We think that's too much, so we just do 13 days, so we're kind of cool. And we also have Twitter this year, and that would be just at POC-A-Thon. I will link it below. There is also going to be a Google Doc below there that will hopefully work with all the details so that you don't have to stress. And if it's not working, just let me know. Anyways, the other hosts that we have returning are Justin from Ghost Reader and Kevin from Glyph, and they are both incredibly amazing men who have just a lot of wisdom and a lot of experience. And yeah, I'm just really excited that both of them are coming back. And we also have a new host, drumroll, I'm holding a thing with the other hand, and that is Rashmika Likes Books, and she is really incredible and really just intelligent. I just am in awe every time I watch her videos. I'm just like, can you just talk all the time? That's a creepy thing. I always say creepy things, but yeah, so those are the 3 other hosts that will be joining me. We will be doing all TBRs and recommendations. The others have already done their announcements because I'm slow with technical difficulties, and we'll be doing a live show during that readathon as well. So you'll get our thoughts, and we'll talk about the experience and different books and all of that. Anyways, so pretty much we aren't trying to really focus a lot on challenges and reading a ton, but more on the idea that this is to make you think broader and more widely about the books that you're choosing to read. And through that, these prompts are hopefully going to make you think and choose things that might be a little bit out of your comfort zone or stretch you a little bit as a reader. And you can double them over, triple them over, and some of them you're required to do that anyways. So the first one is that, the requirements is that you, first of all, read a book that is by and also featuring people of color. They don't necessarily have to be the same demographic in there, but that I think that there's an authenticity of people writing from their own culture and own experiences rather than someone. It is great when I could write representation that might be decent, but it's not going to have the same trueness to it. Even if I can have the facts and the knowledge behind it, the experience I think is a really heavily important part of it. And I think that that's a huge part of us as a community, is that we're sorting out knowledge through experience. And I think that getting inside people's head, yes, it's fiction and it's not going to be representative of a whole people group or anything like that, but it is going to allow you to understand people's thoughts and experiences a little bit more intimately. And that's why I really like literature. I also just love learning about cultures and sociology and history, and I think that that is really deep when you learn about the world. And first of all, the prompt would be that you read from 3 different people groups, cultures, ethnicities, and I feel like the blurred lines between what all of those things are difficult, but I think that just at the end that you're reading from a wide variety. In different areas of the world, there's definitely much more representation for different groups, and that you probably know personally, whether you're a person of color or you're white like me, there's probably a different amount of people that have different communities. For instance, I know a lot of people that are Asian, especially East Asian, and even South Asian and Indian, and just that is largely the people that I have in my community. And yet there's different other sectors that I know very little about. So you will each have more experiences based on things, and maybe you have none if you live in one of those rural towns. That sounded really judgmental, I'm sorry. And yeah, so the point is to just read very widely, and I will ramble about these. And then the second one is to read intersectionally, and this is to just have different experiences. It doesn't have to be focused on oppression, but it's just the idea that there's many facets to who people are as individual, And intersectional, I mean like talking about other experiences, for instance, a person who is queer, a person who is neurodivergent, who has a disability, mental health, all kinds of different things, because people are more than just like one label that we might put on them. And I really think that experiencing things is a really important part of that, as you could probably tell. And then third, we have translated work, and or if you speak English as your second language or anything, you can read a book that is not in your native language or not in English and have that experience, because I think that is really important. Rashmika made a good point of view that, you know, there is a lot, but there's so much of a world beyond especially English, which I'm assuming that the majority of people who watch me, English is their first language, or one that they're fluent in at least. But there's so many more books out there that have such rich experience and might even have a more deeper experience, because Rashmika even pointed out that for her sometimes reading these books can be boring because there's so much exposition into different things that are very intimately known. So I think that is really important, because translated works can offer a whole nother realm of language, and I think that it's not often as promoted, so you get to have some underhyped things that might give you a different experience as well. And then we have one of my favorite prompts, which is poetry, and I really love poetry. It's something that I think is so intimate and so just lets you have emotion, and emotion is a universal thing that crosses culture and language and everything, and it's so amazing to have that. And I've been reading a lot of translated poetry this year, and you don't even necessarily have to know about things in order to experience the emotion. Like, I read a poetry collection called Belonging, and it had the London kind of highlighted in it, and it was the idea that it was written in Persian about the Iranian diaspora, and there's these experiences, and a lot of it didn't directly mention the diaspora itself, but you can feel the emotions in there. And there's another poetry collection that I'm reading through now that focuses on people from Vietnam, and there's a underlining current of war and turbulence, and your brother and sister, and you're fighting in different sides. And I don't know that much about Vietnam War that isn't, actually we don't talk about it in history books because Canada wasn't a part of it more, other than the basics, that it was divided and there was civil unrest. That is mostly what I know. Anyways, the second part of this is that you can also read a nonfiction book. You can probably guess who was really behind this one, although I read a lot of nonfiction as well. I also enjoy it. But as Justin will tell you, that there's a lot of deep understanding that you can have through understanding things from a nonfiction point of view as well, because it can give you a more broader, more open expectation. And just, I love history as well, and culture and sociology and all of that, and I think that even through memoirs or narrative nonfiction can also be a huge realm in that. And then I would also put in a caveat, it's not official, but that you would also read a classic book for this, because I think that it's really important to promote voices that have often been not heard throughout the centuries. And I think that it's really cool to explore books written in a time when there wasn't as much representation. Not that there's enough representation now. There's something on the Twitter that I posted that literally was the percentage of people in the US of that people group, and then the amount of actual written by that culture. You know what I mean? I can probably put it here if it's actually in the picture, or I'll just link it below. But yeah, it's not enough. And number 5 is to read from an author that is from another continent. And I think this is also really important because, again, there's a lot of different just experiences through continents, and continents are massive. And also, just a side note for people that always forget, most of Latin America, as in the part until Panama, is part of North America. So you can't read a book that's set in Guatemala or Haiti or Dominican or something and count it if you live in North America. That's the same continent. The divide is one. You can't read a book from Brazil. That's fine. But I think that a lot of people think that there's 8 continents, and it's really weird. Although the continental divide is weird as it is. But anyways, what was I saying? There's different experiences, and even I'm just gonna keep on talking about my other hosts because I like doing that. Rashmika was talking about it. She's Indian, but she lives in South Africa, and the experience of not even knowing that much about her own culture because she lives in a different part of the world. And I think that's an experience that you can also learn through that as well. Like Kevin's family is Chinese, but they came from Malaysia and then to the US. And I think that there's a lot of different spread throughout the world. And yet often when we don't read as diversely as we probably should from different places. So that is really cool to just pick one. So I don't know what I'm going to read yet, but by an author. And it can also, like, we can also read fantasy or something that is not set in our world as well. So there's also authors that are from different continents that you can read into whole different worlds as well if you would like to do that. And last, and certainly not least, is 6. And this one is to read a graphic novel or a comic collection or a manga. Obviously, a manga would be written by a person of color, but the other ones, as Justin pointed out, that you should really be aware of also who is the colorist and who is the artist, because a lot of times those aren't talked about, which are a really, really important part of graphic works, obviously. So just to understand that, like, the whole support of an artistic team. And that's it for prompts. So you don't have to do all of them. You can definitely combine them and do them however you want. This is getting way too long, but I like talking a lot. And the last thing is that there is going to be a giveaway. I'm going to be hosting it again. It is for 20 Canadian dollars, and it's international, obviously. And you have to enter in order, like, the whole 18 and everything. You should know that. But I'll leave a list below that the requirements just that are basic, that I'm not in trouble with that. But that you leave it in the link and you make a TBR or recommendations video and then leave it in the link of the video. Last year I did it and it was a lot harder to find it when there wasn't links in my video. So yes, link it in the video and that would be wonderful. And yeah, also thank you so much. The Asian Readathon and the Black-A-Thon both lent us their lists of books in case you need some place to get started, so I will also leave that linked below, and thank you so much. Anyways, this has been wonderful, and happy reading and writing. Keep looking out for the world.